Okay, guys. So the last time we talked about France, and we had already said that the French sailor who discovered Canada, his name was, starts with these two letters as a reminder for you, in order not to mix the names together. Sir, who can tell me here? Ah, wake up.
Just to,
Francis?
Francis Drake. Thank you very much. Sir Francis Drake, who already discovered Canada. So the French started to send the colonists over there, but unfortunately they didn't find any gold or silver like the Spanish colonies. Someone is waiting in the lobby. Let me admit him. Okay. So instead they found fur for the wild animals over there, especially foxes and beavers. So they started to hunt these wild animals in order to participate in the European lucrative trade. Of course, the French have no experience with hunting wild animals, so they asked the natives for their help. So the French eventually didn't send the army at the beginning. In fact, they sent some French traders to finish this deal with the natives. In fact, they didn't enslave the natives like the Portuguese or like the Spanish coloners. Or, in fact, we can simply use the term Spaniards instead of saying Spanish. So there is no need to enslave the people over there. In fact, they asked them for their cooperation with this business because they have the enough experience for hunting wild animals. And they started to marry from each other as a way to intermingle the two cultures. And this is one of the main reasons why there was a drop in the French population over there in Canada because simply they didn't send the colonists in a large scale, not like the Spanish. Then they went to explore more of the land. Samuel de Champlain went to discover the Quebec province, hoping that he can find some gold. And René Robert LaSalle went to discover the Mississippi River, hoping that when he gonna find the end of this river, he will be able to cross this continent and he can reach the Pacific Ocean. Unfortunately, the Mississippi River was running to the south side of this continent, not to the west. So he found a piece of the land over there, which he called it Louisiana, after the name of the French king at that time, Louis XIV, and it became a French colony. This is for France, guys. The next country we're going to discuss will be Holland. Holland, in case you can remind me, what was the name of the Dutch sailor who discovered the Hudson River and the Hudson Valley, the Hudson Bay? What
Hudson?
was Hudson? Exactly. Henry Hudson, Sir Henry Hudson. So after his discovery, the Dutch started to send the colonists in a small amount, not on a large scale, because they were not simply interested with the colonies over there in the newfounded land. They had more profitable and more important colonies in the other side of the world, especially India. So they simply, once they arrived over there at the Hudson Bay province, they discovered an important island here in the entrance of this bay. So they asked the natives over there who used to live in this island. They needed this land. So they politely asked them to leave and they offered them some money. Eventually, they bought this island from the natives, the Manhattan Island, by the way. So they bought it from the natives and they established their new capital. What's the capital of Holland, guys, over there in Europe? What's the name of the Dutch capital?
Amsterdam.
Amsterdam, exactly. So they called their new city, New Amsterdam. Later on, they rename it to be New Netherland. Later on, they changed the name to be New what? Until now, they are still using this name. New. They have no, they have a famous statue at the entrance of this bay. New York, exactly. So New Amsterdam, New Netherland, eventually it became New York. And this was the only, please guys, if you are not using your mic, mute it. And this is the only Dutch city over there in the Newfoundland land. And New York was the center of the trade. In fact, I'm here talking about the entire continent of North America. Of course, it was a center for trading between the Americas and North America and Europe. This is full horn, guys. Are you ready for the next one? Or do you have any questions? Someone's waiting in the lobby. So any questions until now, guys? Or it's clear?
Clear, sir.
Remember, I will ask. Okay. After Holland, England. Okay. In fact, we have only two colonies for England in the Newfoundland land. Jamestown, Virginia. Over there. Let me maximize it a little bit. Jamestown, Virginia. Okay. After settling over there in Jamestown, Virginia, unfortunately, the English found marshy ground, and impure water. So they couldn't establish their business over there, which was farming, because the soil was not that good, because it was marshy ground and impure water in order to water their plantations over there. So they left this colony, and of course, no gold or silver. So they left the colony and they went to discover another place. Later on, after almost 10 or 15 years, they started to send some expeditions to discover more land. Or in fact, in order to be honest, there was a group of people over there who made a problem with the church. Their name was the Pilgrims. So in order to escape from the punishment they're gonna face over there in England, in order to be sent to jail, they went to the Newfoundland land. Over there, they settled in Plymouth, Massachusetts, okay? And they started to settle down over there, and it was a perfect condition to start their own production. I mean by farming, by the way. It was a good place to farm, opposite to Jamestown, Virginia. And they settled over there in Plymouth, Massachusetts. So the main two English colonies over there in the Newfoundland land, guys, Jamestown, Virginia, and Plymouth, Massachusetts. Yes, exactly. So all over history, we have two traditional enemies.
Mr.
England, yes, do you want to
Muhammad
guess?
Salah is in the lobby. He's
Sorry,
muted.
I didn't notice. Thank you for reminding me. Okay.
Oh.
England and America, mister.
England and America. England was found in history a very long time ago before America. The two traditional enemies, England and, who can help me here, guys?
America.
Germany.
France.
France, exactly. England and France. Okay, our two traditional enemies. In fact, they had some kind of a war for more than 100 years. So, the English colonies and the French ones. Here is the situation. These are the British colonies. And here is Louisiana. Do you remember Louisiana, which was named after the French king, Louis XIV? after the discovery of the Mississippi River. Who went to discover Louisiana? What was his name?
Uh, uh, I know that he named it after the king at the time, but I don't
Yes.
remember.
But
Rene?
his name, Rene Robert LaSalle, his name was not, and his aim was not simply to discover Louisiana, but to discover the Mississippi River. Okay? So here is the French colony, and here is the British ones. In fact, we do not know the reason. And in fact, in order to be honest, we do not know the reason. But some British settlers started to move and settle over there in Louisiana, as if it's a free land. It's a new discovered land. No problem. We can simply settle down over there. So it was the beginning of the war, right? The British settlers. Why simply they moved to the French colonies and they started the war. Okay. In fact, at the very beginning, the war went bad to the English side. They lost a lot of soldiers in this war. Eventually, after several years, France lost the war and the British won this war. So the French had no choice except to deliver the city of Quebec to freely and willingly deliver it to England. Okay?
Clear,
And
Mr.
all
Miss-
of this, sorry?
That's why Canada's under the rule of Queen Elizabeth.
Exactly. So, but the British had made a mistake after winning this war, okay? And they had been fighting for several years. Try to imagine who will pay the bill of this war? Who will pay the fees of this war? Who do you think?
The native people.
Exactly.
لا لا لا
Yes, what do you want to say?
which war is this?
Sorry?
This is which year?
Go on.
He's asking you, Mr. When was this? No, in which year was it?
In the late 1700s.
يبقى مثل الكولونايزرز بتوع أمريكا because they will later on revolt because of this. They will make revolution.
Thank you very much. In fact, guys, the British king at that time had no choice except to enforce the natives to pay more taxes to the English government.
The natives ولا الأمريكans الكولونايزرز في أمريكا نفسهم.
Keep in your mind that in our situation here, in our lesson, we have two kinds of people. We have the colonists and the natives. The colonists, regardless of their nationality, regardless of their home country, we have the French, we have the English, we have the Spanish, we have the Portuguese, and so on. And we have the natives, the original people of the Americas. So the British wanna pay the bill in order to cover their expenses in the costly war. So they had no choice except to enforce the natives to pay more taxes to the English government. Got the idea? And it was the main reason of the American Revolution later on. Of course,
But the American Revolution is made by colonists, not by the natives.
I know, but it was the beginning, the spark of the revolution. So try to imagine the situation. The natives, of course, they are facing the problem of slavery. They have to fulfill and accomplish their work free of charge. Of course, they will not be paid. You must work or you will be dead. That's it. Enslavement. Plus, in addition, you have to pay the government some taxes. And you're gonna work free of charge. You will not be paid. And you will pay the government small amount of money. Of course, the natives didn't like this idea. And later on, it was the beginning of the American Revolution. This was the issue for England and France. The conflict between these two countries. All over history, inshallah, we will discuss their conflicts. We can say that for almost every 20 years, they will start their conflict again. The traditional enemies in history, France and England. And by this point, I can tell you that we had reached the end of our lesson by the conflict between England and France. So, if you have any question, be my guest. If not, I'm going to give you two options. And these options will be, we can quickly go through the lesson from the very beginning, quickly, in only 8 or 7 minutes, as a reminder. Then I can simply ask you some questions. What about this idea, guys? What do you think? Any suggestions?
Yes, miss.
So let's, okay, without voting, let's go through the lesson quickly from the beginning. All of the European colonies over there in the Newfound were simply the Spanish controlled and conquered the Caribbean islands, of course, because of Christopher Columbus, Mexico, and Peru. The Dutch went to discover and colonize the New Netherlands, the English, Jamestown, Virginia, and Massachusetts, Plymouth. The Portuguese, only Brazil, and the French went to conquer Canada. So over there, after landing in the Caribbean islands, the Spanish government established an economical system, okay, a way of ruling the country at that time. And they named this system the encomienda system. This encomienda system simply, every colonist was given as an amount of the land, a small amount of the land, plus some natives to work the land for him. Of course, free of charge. The natives will not be paid, of course. In return, the natives will get some teachings about Christianity. And of course, this treatment was not fair for the natives because they have to work free of charge and they will get simply nothing out of this equation. They will get some teachings about Christianity in order to convert this, their religion to be Christians. And this is called the encomienda system. Later on, the Spanish started to send some expeditions to discover the mainland instead of these islands. So they started to send conquistadors. And conquistadors, guys, are Spanish military leaders. Out of these Spanish military leaders, out of these conquistadors came Hernán Cortés and Francisco Pizarro. Hernán Cortés went to discover and explore Mexico, where he found the Aztec Empire. Their leader over there, Mocha Kozama, was killed.
Mr.
Mm.
The encomienda system, they talk like a land and let the American work in it, right?
The Spanish, yes, the encomienda system.
And then they take the money back.
What money?
After they work.
Let me tell you something.
It means profits, mister.
Of course, all the prophets, whatever they gonna find over there in the Spanish colonies, all of the profits will go to the Spanish government. All of the profits of the new discovered land.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Will go to the government, to the treasury over there. And the natives will get simply nothing. So out of the conquistadors came Hernan Cortez and Francisco Pizarro. Francisco Pizarro went to discover Peru, where he found the Incas civilization. Their leader over there was Utajalaba, who was simply killed by Francisco Pizarro. And he entered the Cuzca, the Incas capital, Cusco. Then, after the discovery of these two new countries, the Spanish king started to send some viceroys. Try to remember this word from the word vice, as if it's a vice president. So the Spanish king started to send some viceroys to rule the land for him in order to settle the order over there. Then there was a huge drop in the population over there. First of all, there is no comparison between the Spanish military leaders or the Spanish army and the natives. The Spanish have metal weapons, guns, and swords, in addition to the heavy armors. On the other hand, the natives had simply nothing, only wooden sticks and spears. So there is no matching between both of them. Plus, in addition to the usage of horses, here I mean the usage of horses by the Spanish. It was the first time for the natives to see such animals. They were afraid from the animals, from the weird weapons they are using, from their costume, and so on. So the Spanish easily conquered these two lands. In addition, the inhabitants, the natives, had no resistance for the European diseases. So the population of the natives dropped dramatically from 50 million to 4 in only 5 years. So the Spanish priest, Las Casas, he said, let's change the workers.
Yeah, mister.
Hmm.
And the population, it was 50 million, right?
Yes.
Then it goes down because of the
To only
disease.
4. To only 4.
4 million, yeah, because of
Yes.
the disease, right?
Yes, exactly. Because of the European diseases. Later on, Portugal. The issue of Portugal is easy. They simply, Portugal and Spain, had signed a treaty together at the early age of exploration in order not to fight with each other. I want this piece of the land. No, I want to take the other one. So they signed a treaty and they divided the continent. They drew an imaginary line through the Atlantic. Any piece of the land at the west of this line will belong to Spain. To the east of the line will go to Portugal. Yes. So out of this equation, Portugal will take only Brazil. And let me tell you something about Brazil. Over there, the land in Brazil had a lot of heavy jungles. So it was hard for the Portuguese even to start the mining business or the farming. It was hard in the middle of the jungles. So the Portuguese took some time in order to get the benefits out of Brazil. For France, unfortunately, the French didn't find any gold nor silver over there in Canada. In fact, they found the fur of the wild animals, especially foxes and beavers. So they started to hunt these wild animals, of course, with the help of the natives. And they used to sell the fur they found over there in the lucrative European market. Then they went to discover more land. Samuel de Champollion went to discover the Quebec province, and René Robert LaSalle went to discover the Mississippi River. Down all the way in the Mississippi River, he found a new piece of the land and he named it Louisiana after the French king Louis XIV. Holland, their colony over there was simply next to the Hudson Bay and next to the Hudson River, the small new city, the city of New York. But at the very beginning, of course, they bought the Manhattan Island from the natives. And they established their new capital, New Amsterdam. Later on, it was New Netherland. Eventually, it became to be known New York. And it was the center of trade in North America. The English went to
And
discover.
later on, they got them the Statue of Liberty as a gift from France. Is that correct, Mister?
Yes. Jamestown, Virginia, over there, the first English colony, hoping, of course, all of the European countries want to get a piece of the cake, want to get the huge amount of gold and silver founded over there in the new discovered land. Unfortunately, the English settlers didn't find any. So after settling over there in Jamestown, Virginia, in order to start the farming business, unfortunately, the ground was not that good. It was a marshy ground, and the impure water prevented them from settling over there in Jamestown, Virginia. So they left it. They left this colony, and they went to discover another piece of the land, where they settled down in Plymouth, Massachusetts. And they started their farming business. Of course, because the English colony and the French one are next to each other, the Quebec and Plymouth, Massachusetts. So some of the English settlers went to settle over there in the French colony. Of course, the conflict erupted, and it was the beginning of the war. At the very beginning, the French won, but eventually the British won this war and defeated France. So France had no option except to deliver their French colonies to England. In order to pay the money of the cost of this war, the English settlers enforced the natives to pay them some taxes. And of course, it was the reason of the beginning of the French Revolution. I hope that I covered
Mister,
all of the points. Yes, if you have any questions, please raise your hand.
slide before اللي هو the last one.
Slide 4, this one?
No, the last slide of the conflict.
Yes.
Why, Mister, in the picture in the left, Louisiana was made in the French territory, while in the right, it is Spanish, not British.
Later on in history, the Spanish will come to take some kind of control over it.
Okay.
But in the treaty, in the war, the French officially delivered the Quebec province to the British. Any more questions, guys? Or I can ask.
Clear, Mr. Clear.
If you have any question, be my guest. Simply raise your hand.
Mister, you can ask us questions.
Okay. So if I ask, let me see, Bilal Ibrahim.
Yes, Mr.
Who is a conquistador? What's a conquistador? What's this term?
Spanish military leader.
Thank you very much. Jawad.
Yes,
Jawad.
Yes, hello.
How are you, Jawad?
I am very good.
Francesco Pizarro went to discover Peru or Mexico?
Say that again, sorry, mister.
Francesco Pizarro.
Mm.
He is a conquistador.
Yes.
ماشي? Who went to discover Mexico or Peru?
Peru.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, yeah, mister.
Muhammad Salah. Muhammad Salah.
Yes.
Mo Salah. Viceroy. Who is a viceroy? From the word vice, viceroy.
Vice.
Not vice, viceroy.
I don't. مستر.
If you need some time, no problem.
أصل مستر دخلت الحصة متأخر.
But we have been discussing this issue 2 lessons earlier. Okay. Omar Muhammad. Omar. Omar. Sleepy Omar. Ali Khalid.
ايوه مستر.
You are Omar? Okay, Omar. Can you tell me, Omar, what was the name of the Aztec capital? The Aztec Empire. What was the name of their capital? It was written in blue in the slideshow. Mute your mic. If there is a problem with it, you can simply write for me in the comments area. Ziad Salah. Ziad.
Yes.
Who suggested getting slaves from Africa?
Mr. May you give me some minute?
Some minutes? Unfortunately, we do not have any. We have only a couple of minutes left in our lesson. Okay, so I'm gonna ask...
It's the person who was
Las
with
Casas.
Las Casas. Thank you very much. He was a Spanish priest.
Yes.
So, Abdullah Abdulaziz.
Yes.
What was the name of the one and only Portuguese colony over there in the Newfoundland land?
The Portuguese colony in the America.
Only one country.
One country only.
Mm.
I think.
And in fact, it's in the shared slide. It's written in front of you. I have just noticed that.
Brazil.
I have just noticed that. Okay. Okay. So I will ask. Who wanna be asked? Can you raise your hands? I have no problem. Okay, Ziad. Ziad, why do you think? I have asked you before, Ziad.
Yes بس شوية مستر كده.
No. Give your friends.
بس.
Give your
تمام.
friends the
Okay.
chance. Okay, Abdurrahman.
Yes, Mr.
Why do you think Portugal was satisfied with only Brazil?
Because it had a lot. It was like a big jungle, and it has a lot of benefits, and it took time for them to get the benefits out of the country.
Okay, because of the jungles. Okay,
Yes.
but this was not my question.
Mr.
Why Portugal, regardless of its power, was satisfied with Brazil, not asking for more lands? Why Portugal didn't start to send some expeditions to the Newfoundland land in order to get more of it?
Mr. I don't know.
Because yes.
It's because they didn't know that they would be only taking Brazil. They thought might be new land or more lands. Because it was undiscovered.
Yes, what was the title of this site? Because they signed something, guys.
Treaty.
Exactly. Yes, because of the Treaty of Tordesillas, because they already agreed and signed the Treaty of Tordesillas. I think our lesson, guys, is done. It's gonna be done by 10:15, right?
That's correct.
Yes, Mr. It's over.
Okay, guys, thank you very much. Until we meet again next week, have a nice time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Mr.
Assalamu alaikum.